I'll record it as I am right now. Test.
We'll do 2 breaks, 20 and 40.
Okay.
Where we just play promos for our shows, some music.
Test. Probably just, what did I do? I turned up something.
Test 1, test 2, test.
Doesn't it sound a little, does it sound a little scratchy to you guys too?
It does.
It does.
What that is. We're out of business.
Reboot. Test 1.
Now it still sounds scratchy. Crappy. It sounds crappy.
Crappy. 1, 2, 3.
Crappy.
Lots of, tons of crap. Piles of shit.
Piles of poo.
10 fertilizer.
Fertilizer. Bomb making material.
That's better.
Bomb making material.
Although, you know what? I don't have the left. Joe, I lost the left channel here.
You lost the left channel. You lost the left channel. I lost the left channel.
Left is gone for me. Right. Oh, this is real low. Maybe I'm real low. Testing. Why did I mess with those at all? I'm back.
Hey,
I'm gone.
You know what? I know what the problem is. I was using something else.
It's too complicated for you.
No, it's too complicated. I'm like a retarded monkey.
It's
Is
your.
he set up at Casey's place?
No, does he have stuff like? Oh, he does DJ stuff, right? Oh, yeah. Maybe he can teach me a few things about the hell I'm doing. He probably does know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You have to bring him in here sometime. And I'm like,
He uses
I
Macs.
thought this was your guest on the radio show. Now you have to show me how to work all this stuff.
Joe bought a Mac, so.
Mm-hmm. And he has Pro Tools and all that, so.
Okay.
Joe has amateur tools.
Certainly no Sloniker. All right, shall we get this show on the road? Let's.
How come I lost earphones when you did it?
I just turned off all the mics so I can do the intro, so I can play the.
But I should hear you on my earphones, right?
Yeah, when I unmute the mic.
Oh, I didn't know that they were okay.
We do this the same way every show.
Every show.
Every show, it's exactly. Every show. So and I need you to coordinate here when I hit go, so we can have time.
Just wink at me.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
The girl's saying this room right now is smoking hot too. She moved to Chicago. You know Kelly moved to Chicago.
Oh yeah.
Episode 30. You're on episode 31. You're on episode 31.
Okay.
But you probably do that because you've been keeping track, right?
I'll do my best to have a responsible and divergent point of view.
That's good. We're good. The time was we were off about 10 seconds before. Let's look at Kristen Air.
Hi. Are you recording?
Good. How's the weather? Hot and humid.
And here it is.
It's episode 31 of the Brian and Joe Radio Show. On today's show, Jeff McElravy, Senior Economic Development Person at the City of Cincinnati, and a friend of Brian and Joe. Go figure. That's all today, live here on episode 31 from WVQC. This is the Brian and Joe Radio Show.
Hey everybody, I'm Brian Mueller, and I can't hear myself. Am I?
That's weird.
Oh, that's good. I'm fine. I'm probably fine. I think I turned down my headset a little bit.
Yeah, I think you did.
Okay.
I think you did. I don't understand all the technical issues going on with the show today, but it's all good.
It's good. Well, it's good to be here, Joe. I think you're getting ready for the World Cup.
I'm getting ready for the World
That's
Cup.
right. The Joe goal.
Goal! I'd be good. That's my new career in broadcast journalism. I'm very excited about that.
Who are you rooting for in this World Cup?
I'm rooting for Costa Rica.
And Any reason you like turtles, butterflies, something?
I like Coast.
You like Costa without?
I like Costa.
Do you like your Coast with oil, without oil?
Oh geez, I prefer my Coast without oil. And BP, I'll just say it, everybody at BP, even the guy working at the corner gas station should go to hell.
I don't really agree with that, but
Little pause as Brian reflected on that a little bit.
no, I think what I heard
On
some.
a rocket sled.
Well,
Take that.
Jimmy Fallon now covers the Conan O'Brien spot on NBC, and last week he had a good thing to say. He said that the CEO of BP said, "Don't worry, BP will be all right." He says, "Isn't that like someone hitting your dog and saying, 'Don't worry, my car's fine'?"
It's true, unfortunately.
It's sad because every year my wife's family takes a vacation to St. George Island, which is on the Gulf Coast of Florida, and we gather there for about a week.
I
And
think you're a little better now.
was I a little low?
You're a little, slightly, not much.
I was going for the Barry White, but anyway,
Very good.
so I'm not really sure if that family vacation that's been taking place for like 4 years now will happen at St. George Island, unless we're willing to get a nice oil sheen. Might be great for the skin. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, well, it's a natural sunblocker. That's good.
Yeah, it's hard to swim in oil.
It is harder to swim in oil. It's harder to for fish. It's harder to breathe.
Yeah. Well, Joe, usually what we do, we skip this as
You're gonna tell
last
us
episode.
about what you thought about on the way to the station?
Well, actually, the show's going to air sometime in June. Yeah, no, that's a great segment that I used to do. But this segment's
Can I
going
say so myself?
So I'm hoping that when they hear this,
I used to be brilliant.
I think when they hear this show, hopefully the oil will have the well will stop gushing in.
The well, yeah. Well, don't count your.
And so I did
don't
a
count
quote.
your barrels before they're opened and refined.
So episodes 28 and 29, I did a quote. I skipped that on episode 30.
Thanks, Krista.
Well, this time I'm going to do another quote, and the quote is, "Anything that can be done chemically can be done by other means," and that's William S. Burroughs. I thought that was kind of appropriate. So maybe we should look to alternatives other than oil to power our cars.
Thank you for shutting the door so softly, Krista.
So we're Boot Camp Digital downtown.
Boot Camp Digital, which is digital, apparently does not stand for Quiet Podcast.
No. Well, we're in the Gwynn Building,
Yeah, the Gwynn Building.
which is the former Procter & Gamble World Headquarters.
I think we said that on every show now.
We might have, but the point is the air conditioning is not working. We have the door open, so if you hear
We have
some,
lights on, and we are. I feel like an Arby's roast beef sandwich right now.
you look like an Arby's roast beef sandwich.
Mhm.
5 for
Pour
5.
some Arby's sauce on me and lick it off and put more on it.
Big thing. This is a serious show. We've been working hard on promoting this. I can't tell you how many Brian and Joe Show business cards I passed out this week. I'm really trying to drum up support for the show. We're doing good things, Joe, and today is no exception. We're going to talk about economic development in the city of Cincinnati.
I'm excited about that. I'm surprised and delighted that our guest is here today, only because I don't know him to be somebody who likes to go around town. But I guess he feels like Brian and Joe Radio Show is probably a safe place to basically come out in the media. Because the 5 people that listen to this will be shocked.
My dad's going to be really excited.
Yeah,
No, he doesn't
Hey,
typically
Jim.
spend a lot of time on in media, on the media. He keeps a low profile, but he is an important man in town.
Absolutely.
His work matters. You see it everywhere. You don't realize you see it.
That's right. That's a good point.
And I'm going to introduce him because I've known him for many years, from
Yes,
when
you
he
have.
was the coolest guy at Walnut Hills High School, all the way through his undergraduate years at Ohio State. He came back to the city after Ohio State, where he worked, I guess, with Minette Cooper, who was a city councilwoman at that time.
You say yes because
Well, his role with that, I want to say it was like chief of staff kind of thing. Is that the role that you had?
Oh, it was everything from legislative work to making sure that she got to wherever she needed to be on time.
Those are the dulcet tones of Jeff McElroy. But I'm going to add more to this. After he left his job with Minette Cooper, he went back to graduate school because he knew he wanted a job in the public sector. Got a master's in public administration at Indiana University. Just left all that Buckeye stuff
Okay,
behind.
University.
It's a terrific university. And then he went on to Chicago and worked for I think,
Completely overrated.
a nonprofit organization that helped advise cities on economic development. And finally, I think it was in 2005, he came back to the city of Cincinnati to work in the economic development office, and now he's a senior economic developer, economic development officer
Okay.
with the city of Cincinnati. Ladies and gentlemen, from Clifton in Cincinnati, now resident of Madisonville, Jeff McElravy. Jeff, so good to
Yeah, very good, very good, very good.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, and thanks to our studio audience there very much. They're very polite.
Jeff, you have the privilege of following up a very lighthearted show, and that's probably why Joe and I have just not buckled it down after this last hour. Maybe it's the fact that I drank a burger beer and now I'm having a hootie.
I guess. I don't know. I'm okay with it. I mean, I think the Brian and Joe radio show, we pick up where Terry Gross leaves off, which basically she's not interviewed Jeff yet. She's way too damn serious.
Well, no, if Terry Gross went to the bar after work. This is what it was.
We'll have to bring her, have her on the show. But anyway, Jeff, welcome to the Brian and Joe radio show. I'm glad feel like you're wasting the afternoon, but it's okay.
Thank you very much. Definitely not a waste.
Did you walk over here from City Hall?
I did.
Excellent. You didn't take a Segway or anything like that?
No.
They don't have any Segways at City Hall for it.
I think our Parks Department has Segways,
Oh, they have,
but not us development types.
no. Yeah, just talk right into that microphone. I don't know, for some reason you're not sounding,
Like myself.
yeah, right into the, like, right there. Say hi.
Hi.
Oh, okay, very good. That works.
Better?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Jeff is a quiet man. He's always been a quiet man, and but he's always had a lot to say. And
Perfect guest for radio.
He really is. No, but he gets the job done. Jeff, tell us a little bit about your job. How about start up there? That's a good place to start.
Okay. Basically, it is our job in the Economic Development Division to promote new investment in the city, and by doing that, also grow the city's tax base, because ultimately that's the thing that allows for the policemen to be on the streets, and the fire service, and for trash to be picked up, and all the mundane things that city government does that's very important. We have to pay for it, and our revenue base has been in decline for, well, decades, and that's a reason that a function like ours exists, to try to turn the tide on that and make sure that we can continue to provide solid services for the citizens.
Absolutely. Now, how many people are there in your department?
There are 7 of us.
Mhm.
Is that growing since you
Okay.
started?
What's that?
Has it been growing since you started 5 years ago?
No, actually, we've been shrinking.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes, very much so.
Is that a budgetary
Who's the
issue?
director now?
His name is Patrick Ewing. He's here.
Oh, he was on Dallas, which is ironically our theme
It's
song.
perfect, yeah.
That's great.
Or other people might remember the basketball player.
Oh, yeah.
He calls himself Patrick Ewing Sr.
Senior.
because he was actually before
Oh, okay.
the basketball player.
Basketball.
Anyway, he has devoted a good chunk of his career to working on housing initiatives and development initiatives across the city. So he's been in this role for a little over a year on an interim basis, and we soldier on.
Yeah. So, what? Just kind of in a nutshell, tell us a little bit about what you do at the city. That is, and I know I said we want to talk about you too. But your job is in this country. This is. What the hell are you doing? Oh, you're taking a picture. Okay. What is your job essentially? And I think I can kind of add to that too. It's probably well. Go ahead. Just answer that question.
Well, maybe one of the best ways to talk about it is to talk about it in the context of an actual project, something that you can talk about bureaucracy and all that stuff, and that's not terribly fun. But we recently completed a deal with an investment group and Alnire Incorporated to do a renovation of the Vernon Manor Hotel. It closed a little over a year ago, which was a real shame. You know, a great historic
Yeah,
hotel
sure,
with a wonderful story.
Beatles
to
stayed
tell.
there. Lyndon Johnson spent the night there.
Yeah.
Pretty
And
significant.
and I stayed there once. So.
Did you really? Okay. Were they nice rooms?
Not at that point, no.
No, not really.
Quite frankly, I mean, it was one of those things where the building was past its best days, and it's a pretty substantial renovation, and given the way that hospitality goes, it just didn't work out. So the hotel closed, and the question was, now what for this iconic building in Avondale? And since I Children's Hospital, it has been growing at a phenomenal rate over the last several years. They're one of the fastest growing institutions in our city, and a huge job base, part of the real growth in Uptown. So they are running out of space on their main campus to be able to do the core medical research kinds of things that they do.
Mm-hmm.
So that what they've been looking to do is find a place where they can move some of their non-medical operations in order to be able to congregate, all of their research functions in one spot. So we worked with Alnire and an investment group that is the majority owner of the project, 51% ownership in the LLC that is made up entirely of African American investors. It's a fairly new business model for Cincinnati where we have minority ownership on the equity side. So it's not just about...
Explain that. What does that mean?
That means, well...
Majority ownership on
the equity side.
Yeah.
When it's sort of like when you buy a house and you come in with your down payment, and that's what gives the bank and all of your financing sources comfort that they're going to be able to be paid back. So in any deal that we do, the developer brings equity to the table, cash to the table. And this situation is different because it is a large investment group, and a good chunk of that investment group comes from the local African American community. So this is an excellent way for folks to become involved in real estate and grow wealth, and a wonderful partnership for the city to be able to participate as well. So it's an incredibly complicated project. It's an old building, and it has all the issues that go with an old building, and
Lots of different players in the game.
Absolutely. So it's our job to try to navigate all the things that you have to get through in order to be able to open the place up in conjunction with the development partners. So that's everything from, the boring and mundane things like, zoning and building codes and things like that to, when you've got a floor to a ceiling that is kind of narrow or short because that's the way it was built back then, how do you put in a modern ventilation system, things like that. So anyway, it gets really expensive.
And you guys would deal with that as well?
Well, indirectly.
Okay.
What we have to do is figure out, since that costs 1.25 times what it would to put in a
New facility.
standard HVAC system or something along that line. All these little bits of incremental cost add up to a project that isn't economically feasible without there being participation from the public, which is where we step in and try to help out with a series of financing tools and tax credits and things along that line. So we were able to do that. And as a result, Children's is going to be moving 600 jobs from their main campus into the Vernon Manor after Alan Iyer does a complete renovation of the property.
And Al's getting some help with that, right? He's not doing it all by himself.
Well, it's
Just Al out there working?
Yeah, Al has a little bit of help.
A little bit, yeah.
So this in Children's Hospital, as I understand, they're already in the old Ford building, the old Ford factory too as well. I mean,
They are, yes.
They've been expanding, like you said, all over the place. So that building was probably similarly repurposed, and I don't know if that was a project or if that was all private or if the city was involved with that, but this is similar to that.
It is. It's very similar. So the other piece to the puzzle that really makes it a home run for us is that the 600 jobs that go into the Vernon Manor are great. But what that does on the main campus is free us up to have 600 new clinical and research positions come in, and those are very high wage salaries that'll do a lot to help to boost our revenue base. So, when we can work with good partners and deliver real value for the taxpayers, that's when
Sure.
we've had a good day.
And it helps in what I don't think people realize so often, and I get frustrated with governments and even the city of Cincinnati in other ways. But this is a way to raise revenue without raising taxes.
Exactly.
And that's the whole point of your job, is because it's very politically unpopular whether you're Democrat or Republican, despite what one party says about the other, or vice versa. No politician wants to be in a position where they raise taxes. That seems to be pretty much a good way to lose your job.
Absolutely.
So a way to do that is to say, well, we'll just get people to come to the city and pay taxes the old-fashioned way. We won't, we'll just do what we did originally, which was we just taxed people that lived here and we got a bunch of money. So the idea is just to bring people back into the city and tax them just the way it's always been done.
Yes.
Is that a fair statement?
It is, and we have to earn that. The day is long gone when you could just tax someone and they're here.
Yeah, right.
People have voted with their feet, and they've made it very clear
Yeah.
that if they're going to invest in something, they want a return on that investment. And I think the perception has been for a long time for far too many that wasn't the case. That's changing.
Yeah. And eventually this is, it'll make money for the city. Yeah,
No, I was going to say, it's important for our listeners to know, and many probably already know this, but your position is nonpartisan. The entire office is nonpartisan, correct? I mean,
Correct.
the positions, and So you have council members, both Democrat and Republican, and the charter rights, although they don't like to be called that, right? They want-
Charter committee.
Charter
Yeah,
committee.
charter rights okay, but charter they don't even call it the charter party.
Charter
committee.
They all come to you. They're all looking for the economic development office to help them with deals and things like that. Is that, or they have projects and ideas throughout the city, whether one of them lives in the west side or north side or Oakley or whatever. I mean, I imagine you work with everyone on council no matter what.
Oh, absolutely. Usually the way the dynamic works is that there will be an idea that comes out of the development community. And what we will try to do is partner with them and then take that to the city manager and then ultimately to city council, which is basically our board of directors.
I see.
If we were to try to do a whole bunch of projects on our own, we'd be out of money overnight. It doesn't work that way. So our model is to take really good projects that have a chance to yield a great return for the private sector and more importantly for the public sector, meaning the citizens. And get those projects over the hump by providing just a little bit of gap financing or a little bit of technical assistance or whatever it might be. So we can take something that's good, it can't quite happen, and get it there. And that's
Sure.
when we've done our jobs. If we were to, there are some situations, for example, the former Queen City Barrel facility, where we have come in and we're taking that on by ourselves. But that's because there's no way on earth that anyone else would do it. And that piece of ground is just too important to the long-term viability of Price Hill, so Lower Price Hill. So,
Yeah.
so there are times when we do that, but by and large, the idea is to try to take something good and really bring it home.
And do you, the work that you do, I guess, when you guys put together a package working with the developer and you kind of come to an agreement, does that turn into a resolution or become part of a resolution that goes before city council?
Yes.
And then they vote on it and it's eventually signed by the mayor?
Well, it's actually not a resolution, it's a stack of contracts that goes to the ceiling, but yes.
And then they vote on all these? And
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. And okay. And then they give their blessing and bam, the project moves forward.
Yes.
Typically. Well, how long does it typically take for, I guess it depends on the complexity of a project, but is this typically months, years?
Yeah, these deals are not easy. They'll generally go, 6 months, 9 months in pre-development before we actually go through our legislative approvals.
Jeff, I've known what you've done for a long time on some more superficial level, and so this is really fascinating. So after we take a break, we're going to come back and get into this some more. Really interesting. Thanks for joining us, and everyone, you are listening to the Brian and Joe Radio Show. We'll be right back in a moment. It's fascinating. You all right, Jeff? Jeff's like, this is usually my nap time.
Is it all good?
Yeah.
What are we coming back to, the jazz?
I can see clearly.
Yeah.
And intervention, and then at the end is Feist.
So you're going to bring this back this time, and then
Yeah.
next time we'll go out of the way.
Little stiff.
All right, you're good. We were just
Is that
all
all right?
over the map.
Is that?
Is that okay? Or we are?
Oh, no, we're great, yeah.
Sorry it's so warm in here.
It is.
Yeah.
Joe's about
This is
to
kind of
undress.
long. I know, I'm gonna, like you said, come back in a wife beater.
No, today's Matt Witter's second anniversary. I know,
Is it
actually, it's
really?
tomorrow. I called him. Second anniversary, yeah.
Wow.
I called him today. He's like, it's actually tomorrow. I'm like, whoops, well, happy anniversary today.
Well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. No, because I remember that a couple years ago going up to.
Listening to the Brian and Joe Radio Show.
Want to be heard? Call our listener line at
That's from 2005. Where was it? That was up at Sharon Woods.
Or send us
Sharon
a text
Woods.
message at the same number.
Sharon or Mount Airy?
Sharon.
Okay.
Yeah, Sharon. It's hard to listen to 2 years.
Call us live during the show.
It doesn't feel right.
No. You had the picture on your fridge. Yeah, that's 2 years.
I think I just played the second two. Oh, I
Played
I
back
played
then.
essentially the second. I have two versions of. Oh, okay, no, that's okay.
You get a little tired, Joey?
Yeah, I know it's all the heat. I'm like, welcome back to the Rams. 30 seconds.
I'm enjoying this, though. This is interesting.
Yeah.
I'm glad you think so.
No, I think it's interesting.
Should we ask you what's your next job?
Well, I thought maybe we'll go. Can we go into a little bit about? I want to talk about Jeff the man.
Yeah, are we done with Jeff the city man?
No.
Ask him what his achievements are. He's been there for 5 years. That's what I was going to ask you.
Okay. Boom, 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 choo, boom. Welcome back to the Brian and Joe Radio Show on WVQC. I'm Joe Wessels along with my co-host.
Brian Mueller.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Joe.
We're here with Jeff McElravy. He's the Senior Development Officer for the City of Cincinnati. And we're talking about development in the city, kind of how that works. And of course, we're going to talk a little bit about Jeff, the person. So since we were, before the break, talking about some of the, kind of what the job is of a development officer, which essentially is to bring in development in the city so that the tax base stays strong or gets stronger so that city taxes can stay low, essentially is a watered-down version of what you do. Tell us a little bit about some of the projects you've done and that maybe people would recognize, or even if they're not your, I mean, I'd love to hear yours personally, but maybe some of the department have done that are
Exactly.
doing the job of keeping the city's taxes low.
Yeah, because people are always saying, tell me what government does for me. There's this, big movement, like government's too big, but hey, let's give government some credit, so give yourself some credit.
Well, how about a couple that are right next to each other and very visible? Folks who come up and down I-71 every day, we'll see them as they're coming through Evanston. The Keystone Park project, the first of several office buildings, is up and tenants are in. We're working on doing some highway improvements there right now. But when all that's done, there'll be 2,000 people working there.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
good.
It's gonna be big. So it's
Where is Keystone Park? I think is that where the Red Cross is building their building?
and that's the second part, exactly.
Oh, okay,
Exactly,
yeah. So people see that. I think they finally put a Red Cross sign on the side of the building, so people now know that that's what that is. But
Right.
it's kind of a neat looking building. I was really bummed that they were leaving downtown, and then I heard that they were going to go to Blue Ash. So were you guys involved with getting them to stay in the city, or
Well, they do have a facility in Blue Ash.
do they? But isn't that where they were going to move their headquarters? Is that where?
I think they were looking throughout the region. They had a set of criteria that were really important to them.
Okay.
And that really narrowed down the field of potential sites. But the folks at Naira Properties did a great job creating a site and working with the community to make sure that that would be a welcome addition to the community. And now they're going to be in the heart of the city and the heart of their service area. It's amazing. I think it's something like 17 counties that they cover. It's,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
Very important organization.
yeah.
And they're federally funded, right?
I think they are primarily privately funded.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
So under the United Way.
And the other building that's there in Keystone Park is interesting because wasn't it the first LEED certified building in the city, or was it? It's a green.
It was an early one. It's LEED certified.
It's
yes.
LEED certified.
And the distinction about Keystone Park is that it's going to be one of the, if not the first LEED certified office campus
Oh, cool.
in
Okay.
Ohio.
So does that include the American Red Cross building as well?
Yes.
Oh, neat.
Yes.
Huh.
That is neat.
And then just kind of give us a brief. What does that mean when you're something's like? Because you and I know what it means, but what is LEED certified?
Sure. It's Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, one of those horrible acronyms.
Uh-huh.
But the point is that the building is constructed in a way that is sustainable. It's operated in a way that's sustainable, which helps a lot in terms of reducing operating costs and just being better for the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. So it's green. It's a
It
green.
is.
It's a green.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's really neat. What else? You said that there's some other ones that they might recognize. Maybe are there other projects on the 71 corridor? Or one that I always think of is when I come into Cincinnati from Kentucky and cross the Brent Spence Bridge, and I look over to the right, and I know there's a building there that maybe you had a hand in developing. I thought I'd overlooked sort of the Paul Brown Stadium
Oh yeah, there's a condo project over there.
condo project,
Yeah,
and you were involved in getting that.
We helped a
helping
little
you.
bit in terms of trying to put together the ground and the financing on the front end.
Is that Parker Flats?
It is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't only do just big commercial projects; you also do residential projects.
At the time, that was the case. We've actually switched things around lately so that all the residential stuff is done in our Department of Community Development.
Oh,
we
really?
focus on things that are generally going to create more than 50 jobs or result in more than $50 million in
Because
investment.
residents don't necessarily make as much money for the city as in jobs do. Employees.
It really
Is that why you're doing it that way?
Well, this is an important distinction, actually, for why we do what we do. I'm glad you brought it up. Someone who works in the city but doesn't live in the city
Mm-hmm.
makes the same contribution to the city from an earnings tax standpoint as someone who lives in the city and works in the city.
Mm-hmm.
So if you kind of take a step back and think about it from a service provision
Mm-hmm.
perspective, the individual that is least lucrative for us is someone who lives in the city but doesn't work in the city.
I see.
versus the other way around, because that's just, that's someone for me to provide all the service, which is great. Happy to do it. I mean,
Right.
very happy to have.
But they get a credit
All
for
the
the
residents
taxes
we
they
can.
pay. The reason that is they may say they live downtown and they work in Blue Ash. They pay taxes to Blue. I don't know what Blue Ash's tax rate is.
Right.
But in theory, say it's 2.1%, which is what it is in the city of Cincinnati, and Blue Ash's is 2.1, which I don't think it is.
I think
it's
they're
less.
2.
They're like 2. So technically, they're supposed to pay that 1.1 or that
Point
sorry
one.
0.1 difference to the city, and
And they do. I mean, that's the way it's set up.
Yeah, that's the way it's set up, and that's what they're
There's
supposed
some
to do.
reciprocity kind of thing going
Yeah,
on.
but you give a credit so that people don't end up getting double dipped. But that's how
Right.
kind of how cities make money in,
Right.
in the state of Ohio.
And the opposite is true for the folks who work in the city but actually don't live in the city, unless
Yeah,
they're in a
right. For
township
them,
or something like
if they're in
that.
a township that doesn't have taxing authority or whatever.
Right. Point being, though, that we are interested in increasing our earnings tax base because that is the best mechanism that we have as a municipality to fund our basic services. So that is why we spend more time and effort on the corporate side than we do building residential subdivisions, for example.
Yeah.
I should mention, though, that the city of Cincinnati is very cooperative. A couple years ago, we did a project in Northside where we renovated some housing, and we found a champion in the engineering department in Cincinnati to help us renovate the street. And that didn't cost us a dime. They came in, redid the curbs, redid the street. It was amazing. It was amazing to have. We felt like the city of Cincinnati was 100% behind us, 100% behind the project, and it was totally a residential project. So it was really neat to work with people downtown, really smart people.
Mhm.
Very
Well,
good to hear it.
Yeah, and it's good to hear. I mean, and I just speak for the city in the sense that you got to have residents, you got to have employees, but you also have,
Mhm.
you have to have people here enjoying the city, and it can't be just this like, what's not the opposite of a bedroom community. I don't know what that would be, but where people just work and then they go other places to live. That
Right.
wouldn't be as nice either.
Right. Yeah. So
So-
ideally, we want to have communities that are 24-hour communities. I mean, not every community is going to be. There are going to be some bedroom communities, and there are going to be some areas that are much more commercial. But particularly in the downtown, we want to have things. We want to have a 24-hour neighborhood.
That like live, work, play kind of thing. Is that-
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Have things changed? You've been here for 5, going on 6 years, I guess now. Since you've arrived, have things changed the perception of the city of Cincinnati and what they're doing to help with development? Has that changed in and around the community? They say, hey, Cincinnati's a cooperative partner who really wants to make this happen. Have you seen a lot of positive growth and change from why you've been here?
I like to think so. The folks who are working with us are probably a little bit biased in our favor because they are, actually working with us on a day-to-day basis and are seeing things firsthand rather than just accepting the way that things are thought, just the general perception that might be out in the wider community.
Sure.
I do think that we've turned the corner in a lot of important ways. Some of the stuff that is happening in Over the Run is it's some of the most most successful work that has happened there, I think, in quite some time in terms of the way that you see things changing from a physical standpoint. The stuff that 3CBC is doing is very impressive, and obviously they're a very driven and determined group, and it's been a very tough place to achieve consensus, and to the large extent they have been able to do that on a whole host of projects. So I think that's one area where perception's really starting to change. I think since the most recent city manager has come in, things have started to move on the riverfront, which
Sure.
is an area that I think people were pretty much, it was a civic joke and not in a positive way. Kind of a gallows humor kind of thing. Can't we do anything?
Sure.
And that's really, that's something that's changed. And I think you put that together with things like the work that was done with Fort Washington Way and the work that was done with Fountain Square. I mean, there are a lot of good, large-scale projects that have been public-private partnerships that have involved, municipal government, state government, and private nonprofit institutions that have delivered real and meaningful improvement for our community. And I hope that folks notice that.
I agree, and what a lot of people don't realize is just how big the region is. I know Cincinnati is not considered, the biggest of cities. Of course, it has a lot of notoriety because of the major league franchises and things. But This is, as someone who's traveled around and lived different places, this is an incredibly large region with northern Kentucky and the suburbs surrounding Cincinnati. And Cincinnati is at the heart of that. And really, in order for the region to remain strong, you really have to have a strong city center. And I can just say from my perception that I've seen progress in that, certainly since in my adult life, much more so. Where it was going the other way, I think, while I was younger, I do see a stronger downtown city center. And obviously projects like the ones that you're working on are very important. So
Yeah.
pop that in there.
Yeah, it's
Thank you.
it's part of the whole reason that I got into this in the first place was that when I was a kid, you know, I walked up the hill and I went to Clifton Elementary. And when the school day was done, I walked across the driveway and went to the Clifton Recreation Center. And that was my after-school program.
Mhm.
And then after that, you know, I'd go home and deliver the newspaper, go, you know, have dinner, do my homework, blah,
The
blah, blah.
Post.
Go do it again. The Post.
You do it.
Exactly.
God.
And those opportunities just seemed to not be there for as many kids as was there for me when I was growing up. And I want to make
You're
sure.
saying we should bring the Post back?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Amen.
And
All right.
it,
That was your whole point, right?
It was.
Yes. Okay.
yeah.
Sorry.
It just no. It just seemed like that opportunity wasn't happening as much for as many kids, and I wanted to see if I could try to do something about that.
Sure.
And so that's where you got interested in the politics side of things, or is
Originally, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the experience like? You don't have to be specific if or that. You know, what was it like working in politics? I now have had my own little experience in politics, and frankly, I didn't like it very much. I mean, other than the fact that we won the campaign and knocked out an incumbent who I wasn't happy with, and I felt like I had some small part in that. But beyond that, I just find it really kind of
Was it very gratifying?
Well, the after of it wasn't very gratifying because I felt like, you know, I felt like I was working towards something on the campaign and found out that I was working toward basically helping somebody else completely win office, and there was basically been no gratitude afterward. So, I mean, other than just being friendly, like, oh, there's Joe, you know, I'm like, yeah.
So it sounds like it's really personally ungratifying, but otherwise, you know, you're happy with the outcome of the election.
Oh, absolutely. No, yeah, and I would hope that he'd win again. I think that we're talking about Steve Driehaus, folks. So I hope that he'd win again. I have my
Fingers crossed.
fingers crossed, but also I have some questions. I have some doubts about whether he can pull it off again. But that's my own thing. That's why it was when I want to talk about that. I just wanted to talk about really, you know, getting involved in politics. I really felt like, wow, we're going to make a change, and it was especially this last election, 2008. You're just like, wow, Barack Obama, I helped him get elected. I helped, you know, bring in a new change in the first district. And things are going to happen, and I just found out it was just a big.
There's a bit of a letdown after it's
It was
all.
a big letdown.
It's almost like
So
postpartum depression. You give birth to Obama as president.
no. I mean, no, it wasn't really. I mean, it wasn't that because I mean, there was something fundamentally in that. To use your metaphor, there was something fundamentally wrong with the baby. You know what I'm saying?
The Driehaus baby or the Obama baby?
I'm not such a critic of Obama. I look at it and I say, here we're going to turn this into a political.
I know
show
this
now,
is-
but there's nothing wrong with. I personally nothing. There's nothing wrong with them. I think that the letdown for a lot of people. I look at it and go, yeah, I'm disappointed in some ways too, but also I think that it just goes to show the scope of the job that he's trying to do. And I'm happy that he's at least bringing up things because, you know, I believe strongly that this stuff has to start with a conversation. And it doesn't necessarily, if it doesn't go anywhere right away, that's okay. But he's bringing it up and he's creating the conversation.
You know,
And sometimes that's all you can do in politics is just say, I'm raising the issue here. So,
well, I'm sorry I hijacked that question a little bit. You were directing that towards Jeff, though.
So, oh yeah, Jeff's still here? Oh, hi, Jeff. Jeff walked out actually. Like, oh, fine, we'll talk about politics. No, but so you were involved in politics, and that's my sad 3 minutes about.
No, that's great.
3-minute question, basically, where I cried a little bit, and be my therapist.
Jeff was nodding throughout. No.
Yes, nodding off, not nodding his head.
Well, I think the local experience is incredibly different from the federal experience. And
I don't know if that makes sense funny to me.
I just think that there's one of the reasons that I like local government is because you are more connected to what you can see what you're doing.
Yeah, sure.
The federal system is just so large and touches so many different areas. You could have, suppose just once in your career as a federal administrator in whatever capacity, you were able to get one change made to one rule that really mattered. The impact that you would have would be dramatic.
Sure, absolutely.
But that's probably going to be, 6 months, 9 months, a year of your career.
Yeah.
And the rest of the time, you're just swimming against the tide.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I've been here 5 years, and I can point to buildings all over town and say, I have a role in that, and that, and that. And as a
Mhm.
result,
Feels good.
however many more thousands of people are going to be working in our city. And to have that direct connection, I think, is
And that means-
much more fulfilling.
Yeah, and that means that those rec centers you talked about will be open for those kids that are now, the young. They were like the young Jeff McElravy.
Exactly.
They have their rec center to go to. Hopefully, they have their swimming pool to go to.
Exactly.
When they call 911, the policeman shows up, or the
Mhm.
firefighter, or whatever, or their pothole gets fixed. So they don't
Exactly.
knock it. I mean, you could just think of all these little things they have, like the little butterfly effect kind of thing, where the pothole gets fixed, so the kid doesn't go like right in the car seat or something and hits the car pothole and then bangs his head on the side of the car, and now he's like stupid.
I'm not sure that's a little convoluted, but yeah.
But
Yeah.
It's like, because we did all these things, now the pothole got fixed and the kid didn't hit his head on the side of the car.
Jeff, how many children have you saved?
And then it's entirely possible that in order to get care, the child will go to a health clinic that is sponsored by the city of Cincinnati.
Yeah, and pay for with the tax dollars that you helped raise through not raising anyone's taxes, so you're not anybody's villain, because you're not the, and the council members look good because they go, I didn't raise your taxes, right?
Increase the tax base.
Increase the tax base.
Jeff, thank you. No, I was gonna say too is looking back at the. I know we are getting close to break. Thank you very much, but I do want to say too. Maybe we should thank Harry Russell, government teacher at Walnut Hills High School for many years, and later served on the school board. Did she have an influence on you?
No, not at all.
Not even in the least.
Really?
You wanted?
Eric Russell doesn't listen.
I figured that she had touched many lives with her U.S. history and comparative politics course. And maybe,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I mean she was incredibly helpful in terms of the things that she exposed us to. One of the best things that you get out of history is context, and I think all good decision making comes from having good context. And she worked us.
She really did.
And that was great.
And was later on was the school board president.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And has only been off I don't know what she's doing now, but she's not on the school board anymore.
Right.
But
Many
but a
years.
very popular, well-liked school board member. I think she was on there. They don't have term limits on the school board, I don't think, do they? I'm not
I
sure.
don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. But she was on it for a long time, and she left at her own volition. So anyway, you're listening, you lucky guts. You're listening to the Brian and Joe radio show on WVQC 96. I have to look on the box. 95.7. Gosh, geez, oh, Pete. 95.7 WVQC will be on the air this summer, folks. Real live on the air. 95.7 WVQC. We're really excited about it. But you're listening to the Brian and Joe Radio Show. We'll take a quick break with Jeff McElravy, and we'll be right back.
Want to know more about the Brian and
Sorry
Joe
about your
Show?
text.
Just www.brianjoeshow.com.
I lucked out. It was just the second floor that I tried.
Our website is at www.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
I thought it was 8. Actually, there's a sign up on the 8th floor that says studio entrance or some studio something.
Oh, really? There's another there's a couple businesses that do there's one that says, Screaming Bob. I think they're on the second
Yeah,
floor.
nothing.
Yeah, and he does
Okay.
sound and stuff.
Yeah.
It's so freaking hot here. I'm sorry about this.
That's about right.
Call our listener line at 513-443-BJRS.
So I
Or send us a
dodged
text
the
message at the same number,
politics question. Sorry about
No,
that.
no, it's okay.
Sorry, we got more.
I just went off.
Listening to the Brian Joe Radio Show. We look forward to hearing
We gotta talk about it. We need to go get lunch, Jeff, or something. But I don't, because I want to. We just ran for precinct executive. I was going to resign, and before and then Caleb Fox, Caleb,
Yeah, Caleb.
he was like, oh yeah, because he does planning. Well, not Caleb other ways, but the planning commission, one of the
Yeah.
other things. He was like, no man, we're worried about the Tea Party and all that stuff, so we really need you to run, because they were worried Tea Party.
Tea Party's going to come through the Dems.
Well, they were worried about the Tea Party coming in and running for precinct executive slots, and then being able to take over the central committee. So I was like, all right. But I'm like, I just want to resign. I don't like it. I think Tim Burke is snaky. Then it gets stuck. It does it like once a show or something.
Are we doing 1, 2, 3, 4? Sorry.
No, it's last.
Oh,
So we did all the.
Let's go. Hi, welcome back to the Brian and Joe Radio Show. You're listening to Brian Mueller, and
Joe Wessels.
we're here with City Economic Officer, Senior Development Officer Jeff McElrae.
City manager Jeff. No.
No.
Future.
Oh, no.
It's
No.
Jeff. It's
No, he's a city manager. Silly me.
We're very privileged. Jeff doesn't do a lot of media requests on. I don't know that he's done any. I don't know that he's been asked, but he has been very.
He doesn't do a lot because he doesn't get asked.
He'll do a lot.
There you go.
But he does a lot of pontificating at his home in Madisonville every now and then at a
On
cookout.
McElroy Way, right?
For some reason, people keep going back.
And people do keep coming back.
Oh,
It's the
that's
food,
great.
it's the company, it's very friendly.
We had a very Cincinnati-inspired cookout on Saturday night. Skyline Chili, 4 ways. I mean, it was
I got a
chili, spaghetti, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know what you
4
call
way.
it.
Scotland,
4 ways.
Yes.
4 ways, and
And I heard there was a 2-way later on. But
everybody.
Okay.
We don't know that for certain.
We
You
don't
know,
know.
stick with me on this one because this is going to be a little convoluted. But I'm
All right.
trying to get at a question here about Jeff's coming back to the city of Cincinnati and giving back through public service because
Mhm.
obviously, a man with his credentials and someone who's been outside of the city before probably had other opportunities elsewhere. And so I always liken public service to fantasy football, believe it or not, here recently, because this is how I try to explain it to people, because people today very much are focused on their own self-interest. But it is very important also to give back. And I always often say when I observe people, I don't play fantasy football, but it really is bizarre to me because you end up rooting against your own self-interest. So what happens is you may pick a receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Hines Ward, for example, but you're a Bengals fan. So the Bengals and the Steelers are playing. Well, meanwhile, while you're rooting for Hines Ward to have 4 touchdowns, you're also rooting for the Bengals to win. It just doesn't seem logical at some point. Yet millions and millions of people play fantasy football. With government sometimes, with public service, or when you do things in the best interest of the public, you may be going against your own best interest sometimes. So what I'm saying is, Jeff, somebody with your credentials and your experience, you may have gotten more lucrative job offers, or there may be other opportunities that are better for you financially and career-wise around the country. Why come back to Cincinnati? Why bring your talents and education back to Cincinnati and apply them here, especially in the public sector?
Wow. Well, there's a lot of different ways to drive satisfaction from what you do. A lot of us on the public side may not take home as much as folks on the private side. Generally, there's a benefit component to it as well, but more importantly, it's the kind of thing where you can go home at the end of the night and feel like you really did something that was worth doing, which isn't to besmirch the efforts of the vast majority of Cincinnatians and Americans that go out and work in the private sector and do great important things. I mean,
Sure.
there's a lot of good things that can be done there. It just didn't speak to me when I was making choices about what I was going to do. It just somehow seemed much more interesting to go dive into these incredibly difficult questions and see if there's a way that we can chip away at it and maybe leave things a little better than they were. Coming back to Cincinnati was a very easy thing to do. I was gone for about 10 years, all in bouncing around for school and for work. And also did a lot of consulting work when I was in Chicago. I was on a plane a lot, going to a lot of different cities, helping them with all sorts of questions that they had with how they're managing their finances and all sorts of stuff like that. Cincinnati has a heck of a lot to offer. It is an incredibly well-balanced community. It has a lot of the amenities of a large city, but it takes 15 minutes to get across town. You know, it's not the kind of thing where you have to really fight your way through stuff in order to be able to do things. It's much easier living without giving up that much in terms of life in the big city. Now, it may not all be, you know, in this prepackaged little district that you go to and then you say, oh, I've been to the cool spot in Cincinnati. That's not the style at all. They're just scattered all over the place. There's plenty of them. You just have to know where to look. And I think that's more interesting too, rather than having some, you know, corporately designed little district that gets dropped in, and all of a sudden, you know,
And there is
go here.
that element of bigger cities, sort of like the Buckhead district of Atlanta, and the Garden district or the French Quarter of New Orleans, those sorts of things. Cincinnati doesn't have one of those per se, but it does, like you said, have a lot of things to offer. I think something that speaks to what you just said is that when I was in New Orleans with my wife earlier this year, Joe came down and we did a radio show where we interviewed a gentleman that had worked with, he had run for mayor in 2006. And one of the things...
Shedrick White.
Yeah, Shedrick White, and we urge you to go listen to his episode. It's really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But he talked about how people always say that New Orleans is a great place to visit, and they just love the atmosphere, the nightlife, the food, etc.
Mhm.
But then they leave. And he was really looking to build New Orleans as a community where people wanted to live. And Joe and I thought that was somewhat ironic, because being from Cincinnati, we'd always heard the opposite. People aren't necessarily making this a destination city. This is not where they want to come for the nightlife and for the food and all the things going on, although it is in the region one of those places where you can get a lot of that. People always talked about how it was a great place to raise children. So marrying the two is a big challenge, but I do appreciate what you said about Cincinnati. It is really true.
Where do you see things going for the city? I mean, obviously the Banks project is something that is, I think, what is it, June of next year? They're supposed to have the platform done, and then start. Is it?
I think it's supposed to be for opening day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so in April.
It could be June, but I think it's April.
Okay, maybe they revised it. So, and that'll be the platform, the podium, or whatever. Yeah, what they call the platform, where they can start building on top of it, or they can actually have things there for people.
Oh, no. Podium's done.
Oh, is it really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
What's
okay.
under construction
So
now
should do what
is
I do.
the retail and residential component.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Of the banks, yeah.
The first phase of it.
The first phase, right?
Yeah.
Right. So the idea is that the Riverfront Park, the first phase of the Riverfront Park, and the first phase of the banks will open simsimultaneously.
Okay.
Whether that's April or June, or
Okay.
point being
Right.
early next year.
You probably know better than I do, but maybe. Who knows?
So I mean, and I think that's incredibly exciting. To bring a new neighborhood to our city, although it'll be part of the central business district. And anyway,
A new old neighborhood.
a new old neighborhood.
Where the
Actually,
city-
one that's really well designed. One that is primarily residential, although it will have commercial components to it, and things for folks to see and do. Various price points for all kinds of types of interests. So. I think it's going to be pretty impressive. The question is what goes there new to Cincinnati, or an opportunity for folks to, that are here to expand into, a better opportunity, or is it something where we're just moving what we've got around, and so the things that have sprung up on 7th Street and 5th Street over the last several years, do they just end up down there? And then what happens on 5th and 7th?
Well, there's this thinking, I think, which I think is false, that there's only like a limited supply of people to do the things or to live in the places that we're creating. Like, well, if you create something down at the riverfront, that means no one's going to live by Fountain Square, and Fountain Square will basically, functionally be out of business.
Absolutely.
And I think that's just ridiculous, because what it does is it actually attracts new people. I think there are people coming down to Fountain Square now that probably have not been downtown for years, and this has been going on since they remodeled Fountain Square. Now going on when did that open? Was that 2 years ago or 3 years ago now? It's hard to, maybe might have been 3. I can't remember, but
Time flies.
back when Nikki Giovanni
3 years,
gave her
4
speeches.
years?
Is it been it? You think it?
It's been a while.
Time is flown by. Yeah, it was at least, I bet you it was 2006, so it probably was. Gosh, time is flying. Okay, I'm getting old.
But your point, this is not a zero-sum game.
Yeah, right.
And if we are always operating, making decisions from a defensive position, where what is that going to do to what's 2 blocks over? If we can't think larger than that about how we're going to compete, not just against Mason and Westchester and Covington and
Yeah.
Bellevue, but how we're going to compete against Charlotte, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis,
Sure.
Munich, London.
Well, if you
blah,
compete
blah,
against
blah.
Mason, that is or Westchester, that's a losing battle. I mean, I just think you don't win the battle between the guy who just bought his McMansion out off Tylersville Road is not thinking necessarily. Now he could be, but he's not necessarily thinking about. Well, God, I could have bought a condo with McAlpin downtown and been 5 blocks from the stadium and 2 blocks from Fountain Square. And I don't think that they're thinking that. They're thinking those people may come along later, but a lot of those people, I think, frankly, are scared of downtown and they're afraid of the city and they see the taxes and all this stuff and they look at it and they're like, no, I want to live in Westchester. And then when gas hits $6 a gallon or $5 a gallon, then they might rethink it and think, well, maybe I want to do live in the city. Maybe I want to think about getting a smaller car and maybe I'll buy a Segway and take the streetcar or the bus or whatever.
Well, it very easily could be. My guess is in that particular example, probably not. But it's important for a region to have a wide variety of options.
What part you don't?
for
I mean,
their
not
folks.
that. What you said that you don't think people from Westchester would come to?
No. Just your specific example where you have a gentleman who is buying a McMansion, which probably has a whole bunch of ground around it.
Yeah,
and,
right.
I mean, he's probably committed to having a suburban lifestyle.
Sure, and he's probably never going to come downtown. And by that condo,
He's probably a season ticket holder to the Bengals.
very, very, quite possibly can.
But it's important to have those opportunities available in our wider marketplace because, McMansions aren't going to happen in Cincinnati. The ground's too expensive. The
Yeah.
built environment's already there. If we were to clean off an acre of ground to build one home, I mean, that would just be a remarkably stupid thing to do in a city that is where land is so scarce as,
Sure.
as in Cincinnati.
Yeah, but then you drive along Spring Grove Avenue, for example, and that's something. I look at the old Crosley factory, for example, and just love the artwork that is now adorning the side of it. But, it seems to be the hot place to do the latest and greatest artwork, i.e., folks, I'm talking about graffiti. But I'm like, what happens with that corridor there? Because those factories aren't really suited to today's manufacturing processes or even warehousing process where they require, large open floors without pillars and that sort of thing.
Right.
What happens to that area there? That to me is like tear that down and then you could build your subdivision there if you wanted to. But that doesn't seem like.
Well, that's one of the focal points of the Go Cincinnati plan, which is
Right.
something that has been in development for the last several years and is actually finally in implementation now. just
Is it
the
really?
beginning of
Okay.
implementation.
And Go Cincinnati is an economic development plan for the city. It's a kind of a multiple pronged approach to basically building the tax base in Cincinnati.
Absolutely, and the idea for that particular corridor and a good chunk of 75 up through Vaughn Hill and Roselawn is to be able to do single-story R&D flex light manufacturing space that allows us to go out and compete for the businesses that do that, because we just don't have that much of it, and the vast majority of the leads that come our way in terms of folks looking to invest in Ohio or in Greater Cincinnati are those kinds of leads, and as long as you don't have the product, then you're out of the game already.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Can I-
Yeah. You can ask the question.
No,
Right,
if you,
you're so too.
if you have a follow-up on this question, go ahead and ask it, but I do want to ask Jeff right before he leaves.
Well, okay.
Another opinion.
Okay, very good. No, about so even specifically the Crosley factory, if you bring it, it's such a historical place. Are there any talks that you know of that you can share with us? I know that they're putting you on the spot a little bit about a very specific building. And anything that ever come of that project, or anything? Anybody ever talk about doing anything with that building per se?
The Krause building's a tough one because it was built for a specific use, and that was to build radios.
Yeah.
And then there are some auxiliary things.
That's where
were done on the
WLW
side.
was first
Yeah,
originally.
yeah.
Broadcast.
And finding an adaptive reuse for that facility is kind of tricky. I mean, if it were in an area that was surrounded by a whole bunch of residential space, it would be a great and easy condo conversion.
Oh yeah, right.
It's not.
No, it's not.
It's in an area that's largely industrial,
Mhm.
with some other public facilities, and a lot of people are putting a lot of thought into seeing what can be done there.
Yeah, because it's such a historical building. Just, you know, the number of like famous people that went in there and performed at WLW, and just the fact that it was the Crosley manufacturing plant. It's
And
pretty.
it's just a cool building.
Yeah, have you ever been inside of it?
I have, yeah.
Oh, really cool. I'd love to go inside it sometime. But yeah, we talked about that.
Jeff, we only have a couple minutes left. Before
Not
we-
even.
Not even. Can we give it a quick opinion about the streetcar? I've heard a lot of talk about the streetcar. Do you have any thoughts on the streetcar?
I think the streetcar would be a fantastic investment for the city. What we're talking about here is a redevelopment, a catalytic tool. It's not necessarily getting from point A to point B, but creating an environment for investors to really feel comfortable about putting their dollars in an area where they may not have felt that way before. So I think it's
Be
has
positive.
tremendous promise.
Great.
Well, Jeff.
Ladies
thank
and
you very much.
gentlemen, Jeff McElravy, Senior Development Officer,
Absolutely.
City of Cincinnati. Thank you very much for your time, Jeff.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jeff. It's been great. You've been listening to the Brian and Joe Radio Show. Up next, Hemp Rock Radio. Get out your, smoke them if you got them, folks. It's Hemp Rock Radio next up at 1 o'clock with Lynn Wilson here on WBQC. I'm Joe Wessels along with.
Brian Mueller.
See you next week for episode number 32.
Go to thebrianjoeshow.com.
That's right. Don't forget it. See you. Bye.
The show is over. Just call or send a text message. Brian and Joe Radio Show
Okay.
513-442.
Joe, or Jeff, we already won.
What's that?
See what your career trajectory.
A twosome, really?
What's that?
A twosome?
A twosome at his house after the
Four-way, a two-way?
A two-way. I said there was a two-way later on. Oh, come on. It was. I said it. I was.
Actually, I thought you might, you know, and I regretted not coming back and seeing and talking to Rich some more, but or staying longer and talking to Rich. But I figured there wasn't going to be any two ways because Rich was going to be there late. He was looking at time went on, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. When is he not?
Yeah, when is he not? So that reminds me, there was a time years ago when he and Brian Reynolds and Casey lived in Walnut Hills,
What's that?
and he had a big party. Jeff, Brian
Oh,
Reynolds, and
so
Casey
listening to
lived
that.
in Walnut Hills.
My job isn't done yet. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's-
But it was a time that Cappy and I were like the last ones there giving you hell, and then we knock on your door when you were with your girlfriend in your
We should get.
Yeah. I still feel bad about that. What, was that me or was that Cat? I think it was me. You guys. Is this where we get? That's a really good song.
It is a good song.
She's a Canadian singer.
Can we just get one more minute of time? I want to ask Krista if she can take
Yeah.
a picture. Maybe she can make another sandwich for us or something.
Sure.
We're going to make the Jeff's.
Perfect. That was perfect.
Where we stop.
All right. 2 shows in the can. Sweet.
Just can we trouble you for one more photo?
Yeah,
For the
no.
website? I really appreciate it. Thank you. Take this, Jeff. This is your snack for the walk.
Thank you.
We got this for guests.
Thanks, Krista.
No problem.
How you having fun? You're
Your
kind
water's-
of. Oh, there's my water.
Did I knock it over?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it's fine.
That's fine.
I'm gonna be the first.
So where do you normally do this?
First.
Well, we're doing it in front of this right
Oh,
now,
okay.
just for the heck of it. You're the sandwich, though. You have to stand between Joe and myself. Sorry.
You really want to put the shortest person in the middle?
Well, you should have seen the people here last time. They're like, you were like, what?
Yeah, they were short.
They were little. They're.
Did you meet Krista? Did we introduce you?
We
No, actually.
Hi.
I'm Jeff.
Jeff is a
Please.
senior development officer for the city of Cincinnati.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
Nice.
He's very glad that you. He's here to make sure you paid your taxes this year.
Unbelievable.
That's right.
Oh,
Thank you.
nice.
She's the. Joe calls her the meanest Canadian ever, but I don't think that's true.
That's not
I
true.
don't think that's true.
But that means she's still nice to most Americans.
That still puts her
Pretty
right.
much
Right.
given. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
She runs Bootcamp Digital, which is social media consultancy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And I would urge you to go to the website if you want to see her with a machine gun.
Okay.
It's scary.
I know, it is kind of, right?
Not real Canadian, but that's.
That's why it's like hysterical for me.
Well, 2 shows done, Krista. What do you think?
Nice. I don't know.
How's the podcast?
I like that with Jeff. It was
How
both
you
funny
doing the
and-
podcast?
I'm not listening to it.
What's wrong?
Good. I
don't
was
you-
afraid that it was incredibly boring for
I don't
anyone.
want to listen
Oh.
to it.
Well, you know that
I
John
Isn't
won't
a
listen
direct
to it.
friend.
Turn it
either.
on.
Even John won't listen to this.
Did
But
you look in iTunes to see if it's there yet?
No,
If you tell them
I
that there's a few Easter eggs from
assumed
Joe
it
Wessels in
was.
there, we might get John to listen. We were saying if we could promise John a few funnies. You just have to listen to them. We don't know when they are.
There's,
Two-way.
there's some good little one-liners.
Good.